Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. As we approach the 4th of July, may our country once again be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is July 3rd, and we're going to look back over the last week in terms of what's taken place in Israel. And so just as a reminder, you want to grab the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this presentation. You can get that on this YouTube site. There should be a link for it. Or you can always just go to our website at holygroundexploration.com. So this week in Israel, a lot going on. Most of this week's report's going to talk about Jenin, what's taken place in that area. But just keep in mind, behind all, maybe this is an oversimplification or statement, but behind 90% of the worldwide terrorism stands one nation, one country, and that's Iran. And the growing influence of Iranian money is now being seen in Judea and Samaria. It's cause for concern for Israel. Iran is behind the recent wave of terror attacks in Judea and Samaria, and it signifies Iran's expanding regional influence, its potential to fuel instability in areas, as well as perpetuate the wave of terror against Israelis. And it's hard to conceive that our country here in the U.S. wants to find some common ground with this worldwide leader in terror and actually assist them in the ultimate weapon of a nuclear weapon. It is what it is. That's the day and age in which we're living. So the IDF has started an operation in Jenin. It's kind of a Gaza situation. The majority of suicide bombers, a majority of terrorists, jihadists, over the last 10 years, one thing they all have in common is that they're usually out of Jenin. And that's sort of towards the north. If you're in the central section of the country, not all the way up to the Galilee, but close to it, in the middle section there is where Jenin is located. And the IDF now has started, last week we talked about drone attacks, but now this last morning they're attacking from the air. And which means they're going to do everything within their power to knock out the growing terror infrastructure within Jenin. So that's sort of one thing that we'll come back to. Interestingly enough, we're still in our news bites, that Israel is moving forward with the purchase from the U.S. government of 25 F-35s. I think it's over billions of dollars for these. But the purchase of these 25 F-35s, this fleet of stealth fighter jets, will bring the total to 75 in Israel, and it would be Israel's, it's going to be the third squadron of their jets and all of the Middle East. Israel controls the Middle East because of their air superiority, and this just continues to increase that. The next slide, you're going to see slide number 3, is just a picture of where things are at, that location that I talked to you about as far as Nablus and Jenin. Behind all of this, once again, is the Islamic Jihad. The chief, by the way, of the Islamic Jihad, and by the way, I will butcher his name, not on purpose, but Ziad Nakhaleh, has basically just been in Iran, just gotten back, and has said that Khamenei has supported his terrorist organization with efforts to move from a state of calm into active resistance in the region. Again, money, cash, weapons through Iran now into Israel and Jenin. Not to be outdone, Mahmoud Abbas has gone on record to say that the Palestinian Authority is going to join the Jenin terrorists. Our friends from the Palestinian Media Watch, this is an article from them, basically are quoting the Fatah movement. That's Abbas's movement. This is the Bethlehem branch, and I quote, and this was from today, the Alaska Martyrs Brigade, that's the Fatah's military wing, supporting Jenin. With Allah's help and might, our fighters are waging serious armed confrontation with the Zionist occupation forces in the surrounding areas of Jenin's refugee camp, and they are aiming large barrages of gunfire at them. We stand with them. So once again, there's been over 50 Israelis that have been attacked by this terror organization out of Jenin, and the time has come for Israel to step in and literally to do something about it. And it's not just this right-wing government. The next article here simply states that the opposition, and we're talking about Benny Gantz and Lapid, that they're backing Bibi 100%. So again, when push comes to shove, we've talked about this in the last few weeks, is that in order for Israel to survive the attacks from Lebanon, Syria, I mean, you can just draw a circle around Israel, and they're attacked on multiple fronts. In order to survive this, Israel has to be united. And so both Lapid and Benny Gantz have come out and said, we're in 100% agreement. We are all one front against terrorism. And Lapid said, we're all behind you, speaking of Netanyahu. So time to circle the wagons. That's what's going on. And the last thing we want to cover is last week we talked about this Hezbollah Outpost that's across the blue line when we talk about the different fronts, all the way up to the top. And there's no peace agreement between Israel and Lebanon. It's just lines of demarcation, ceasefire lines, and it's referred to as the blue line up by Rosh Hanikra at the very top. Just so you know, last week we reported that the head of Hezbollah's faction, they've put two tents. It's much more than just a little lean-to, but Hezbollah Outpost on the other side, the Israeli side of the blue line. And the head of Hezbollah's faction basically came out last week in the parliament of Lebanon and has told Israel to, in his words, shut up and rescind your demand that we dismantle the outposts that's set up within your country. And his name's Muhammad Riyad, and he goes on to say, you know, the enemy, that would be Israel, is demanding the removal of the two tents and prefers that the resistance do it because it doesn't want to enter into an undesirable war. And then he goes on to say, if you don't want war, shut up and walk back your demands. Sounds like saber rattling once again. But right before I came online to do this YouTube, I read that Hezbollah is said now to have evacuated one of the two tents. The threat from Israel is significant, and it seems like they're the ones that blinked and backed down. The move came hours after Jerusalem is said to have threatened Lebanese terror group with armed conflict if it doesn't move quickly to shift the outpost out of Israeli territory. That's our report for this week. Again, just a reminder that we have a few seats left for our upcoming tour that will include Athens and Ephesus and Philippi and Troas and Smyrna and Pergamum and Berea, Corinth, as well as Rome. We call it Journeys with Paul. And it's October 1st through the 12th. And so if you're interested, just an encouragement, go to our website at exploration.com, or just shoot me an email and I'll send you all the information. And then we are going back to Israel a few times next year in 2024. The first Revealing Israel, that's what we call our first timers tour to Israel, will be February 21st through March 1st. Beautiful time of the year in the spring to see the wildflowers and to walk the land together. So, interested? Again, holygroundexplorations.com. God bless you. Remember, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Shalom.